Welcome to Greater Good Radio Hawaii, where leaders inspire leaders. Greater Good Radio Hawaii is dedicated to social entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Evan Leong, and with me is my co-host, Carrie Leong.
Thank you, Evan. Today's guest is John McManus, managing partner of Baywest Properties. He has over 15 years of real estate experience under his belt and has redeveloped over 1,000 for-sale condominiums, numerous projects and locations, with an aggregate sum approximating $250 million in sales. John is a board member of the Gift Foundation of Hawaii and Rehab Hospital. Please welcome to Greater Good Radio, John McManus. Welcome to our show, John.
Thanks for having
me. Can you tell us a little bit more about Baywest Properties?
Sure. You know, Baywest is it's a real estate company. We're a boutique firm with offices in San Francisco and Hawaii. And we have, there's 4 partners, and we divide the company into 2 different areas, mostly redevelopment projects, both here and in San Francisco. And then we have an industrial portfolio, a few million square feet.
What does that mean, redevelopment?
Redevelopment is really basically taking, older properties, providing new life, bringing them back to life.
Like restoration?
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of restoration, both large properties, small properties, different inner city areas where, you can basically, one building can be the catalyst to gentrify an entire neighborhood. We've done that, in San Francisco, Potrero Hill, and that was an exciting project because, this led to other property owners fixing up their properties. And
so the whole area basically got lifted up.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh. So, redevelopment is it's certainly, I think, for our generation, probably one of the, in the business, in the real estate business, probably one of the largest, not only opportunities, but one of the, looking into the future with land constraints and conservationism, it's really where we should be concentrating, in my opinion, just because it's, it's an area that you can recycle.
And you've been doing this for 15 years?
Yes.
How did you become interested in something like this?
I think I was exposed to real estate when I was young, and I think that helped. My father had been involved in some real estate up in Truckee, up in Lake Tahoe, and he had a very artistic approach to those older historic buildings. So a lot of them were kind of losing their historic luster, and he would go in and kind of capitalize on that historic element to them and add value and basically bring these historic buildings back up to where they should be. And
did he resell it after that, or was he leasing out space in the buildings?
His interest was was keeping them and leasing them out, and they're all right in historic Truckee. They're all in downtown, so they're very tourist-based buildings and have a lot of foot traffic, and so the charm element was really what kind of intrigued him. And he'd go off and research, different kinds of woods for the floors and different kinds of, doors and hardware.
Were you involved with all that?
To the extent that, I was young and at school, and I'd have a jackhammering out, different areas at the time, and I was around it and exposed to it. So that was the interest level that I kind of had at the beginning.
So tell us the story about how you met your current partner, how you got into real estate and decided not to go into law.
Basically was in 1990 in San Francisco. I just graduated from college, and I was long on ideas and short on money. And so I figured the best thing to do, the economy was really slow at the time. So just decided to go down to San Francisco, and someone had mentioned, you should really go and talk to Jerry Lynch about real estate and his law background. And Jerry practiced law here in Hawaii in the 70s, as he will say, for a couple of weeks before he decided that he didn't want to, be an attorney anymore.
So a friend of yours introduced you to him?
Yes. Yeah. So I just rang him and said, Jerry, you mind if we we had Hawaii in common, and I said, can we go to lunch? And so we had a great lunch, South Park Cafe in 1990. Had a few glasses of wine, talk story, and by the end of lunch, my law school plans were over. I had a desk and a phone, and I think I brought my own pen. But basically, at that point, I was in business. I mean,
So you started working with him the next day?
the next day, yeah. In fact, actually, it was that afternoon. So I went back and really just shadowed Jerry for a few months, and went ahead and got my real estate broker's license, and that's really how you learn the business, I think, is to really, get into transactions and understand, deal architecture.
What did he say to get you excited to do something like this?
It was really well, first he said...
Was it the wine?
It was the wine. I think the appealing thing for me was really in the business you can take each property has its own story, so you can kind of create each individual property with its own story. There's a beginning and an end, and so every day is fresh. You encounter new people every day, and at the end of the project, whatever team you worked with on that project, there's a lot of camaraderie, and that was really appealing to me.
So how did you know that he was the one that you wanted to work for after, just a short lunch?
Some things just click, and his views and outlook, he was so enthusiastic about where the market was going, and I, at that point, it was 1990.
It was in the gutter, right?
It was in the
right
gutter,
about then, right?
Yeah. And, and real estate was not thriving. So I figured, it might be a good time to go in the business and at least give it a shot, learn about it. And I knew I wanted to be in it in some facet, but just it sort of presented itself at the time.
So what was your first job there then? What did he have you start doing the next day?
Cold calling.
This guy must be an incredible salesperson.
No, it was a very non-glamorous start to the business, but I think that's what it takes, to really not be afraid to go after a building and put a deal together, and when you're in brokerage and you're first starting out and you're trying to convince someone, listen, you should sell your property with me, and it's a big apartment building, and that was really my target, was apartment buildings.
So you were going after properties that weren't necessarily on the market yet. You were just cold calling to see if they wanted to go on the market.
Yep. One creative technique that we had was, not sure, I think the statute of limitations is over now, but it was pretty funny because you give someone a call and you say, you know what, we've got this person who's very excited to buy your building, and they'd say, oh, okay, well, make me an offer, and then you'd go and you'd get your stable of buyers and say, hey, this place might be in play. So there were some really fun games to play in the business, and at the end of the day, everybody's happy, and moving property and buyers and sellers together, and it's a very fun business.
What are some important lessons that Jerry Lynch had taught you about business?
I would say the first one is really do what you say you'll do, because I think certainly the more time you're in business, you kind of hear a lot of things, but you don't see a lot of things. So basically do what you'll say you'll do, and I think that's paid. It's paid dividends. He's definitely taught me that for sure.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more on Greater Good Radio.